everybody, hope you're all okay. Today I'm going to share with you one of my favourite stories. It's about a bear who's very old. My bear here, Rosie, she looks quite old. She is 10 years old. I suppose that's quite old, isn't it? But Old Bear is even older than Rosie. He's very old. Old is where something has been around for a long time. Not nice and shiny and new anymore, like lots and lots of toys are. Have you got a teddy bear at home? Do you have a favourite? Maybe you could grab a teddy right now and enjoy the story of Old Bear with one of your bears. Let's get started. Old Bear by Jane Hissey. It wasn't anybody's birthday, but Bramwell Brown had a feeling that today was going to be a special day. He was sitting thoughtfully on the windowsill with his friends Duck, Rabbit and Little Bear when he suddenly remembered that someone wasn't there who should be. A very long time ago, he had seen his good friend Old Bear being packed away in a box. Then he was taken up a ladder through a trapdoor and into the attic. The children were being too rough with him and he needed somewhere safe to go for a while. Has he been forgotten, do you think? Bramwell asked his friends. I think he might have been, said Rabbit. Well, said Little Bear, isn't it time he came back down with us? The children are older now and would look after him properly. Let's go and get him. What a marvellous idea, said Bramwell. But how can we rescue him? It's a long way up to the attic and we haven't got a ladder. We could build a tower of bricks, suggested Little Bear. Rabbit collected all the bricks and the others set about building the tower. It grew very tall and Little Bear was just putting on the last brick when the tower began to wobble. Look out, he cried as the whole thing came tumbling down. Never mind, said Bramwell, helping Little Bear to his feet. We'll just have to think of something else. Let's try making ourselves into a tower, said Duck. Good idea, said Bramwell. Little Bear climbed on top of Rabbit's head and Rabbit hopped onto Duck's beak. They stretched up as far as they could, but then Duck opened his beak to say something. Rabbit wobbled and they all collapsed on top of Bramwell. Sorry, said Duck. Perhaps that wasn't a very good idea. Not one of your best, replied Bramwell from somewhere underneath the heap. I know, said Rabbit. Let's try bouncing on the bed. Trust you to think of that, said Bramwell. You can never resist a bit of bouncing, especially when it's not allowed. Rabbit climbed onto the bed and began to bounce up and down. The others joined him. They bounced higher and higher, but they still couldn't reach the trapdoor in the ceiling. Do you like to bounce on your bed? Duck began to cry. Oh dear, he sobbed. What are we going to do now? We'll never get to rescue Old Bear, and he'll be stuck up there, getting lonelier and lonelier forever and ever. We mustn't give up, said Bramwell firmly. Come on, Little Bear, you're good at ideas. But Little Bear had already noticed the plant in the corner of the room. I've got it, he cried. I could climb up this plant, swing from the leaves, kick the trapdoor open and jump in. In case it wobbled, Bramwell Brown, Duck and Rabbit steadied the pot. Little Bear bravely climbed up the plant until he reached the very top leaf. He took hold of it and started to swing to and fro, but he swung so hard that the leaf broke and he went crashing down. Luckily, Bramwell Brown was right underneath to catch him in his paws. That was a rotten idea, said Little Bear. What I was thinking, said Duck, was that it's a pity I can't fly very well, as I could have been quite a help. Aha! said Bramwell. That, my dear duck, has given me a very good idea. I really think this one might work. I wonder what the idea is. In the corner of the playroom was a little wooden aeroplane with a propeller that went round and round. We could use this plane to get to the trapdoor, said Bramwell. Rather dangerous, I know, but quite honestly, I can't bear to think of old Bear up there alone for a minute longer. I'll be pilot, said Rabbit, hopping up and down, making aeroplane noises. And I'll stand on the back and push the trapdoor open with my paintbrush, said Little Bear. But how will you get down? Asked Duck. I've already thought of that, said Bramwell, who hadn't really, but quickly he did. They can use these handkerchiefs as parachutes and we'll catch them in the blanket. Bramwell gave Little Bear 2 big handkerchiefs and a torch so he could see into the attic. Then he began to wind up the propeller of the plane. Rabbit and Little Bear climbed aboard and Bramwell began the countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0! They were off. The plane whizzed along the carpet and flew up into the air. The little plane flew beautifully, and the first time they passed the trapdoor, Little Bear was able to push the lid open with his paintbrush. Then Rabbit circled the plane again, this time very close to the hole. Little Bear grabbed the edge, and with a mighty heave, he pulled himself inside. He got out his torch and looked around. The attic was very dark and quiet, full of boxes, old clothes and dust. He couldn't see old Bear at all. Any bears in here? He whispered and stood still to listen. From somewhere quite near he heard a muffled grrr, followed by, did somebody say something? Little Bear moved a few things aside and there, propped up against a cardboard box and covered in dust, was old Bear. Little Bear jumped up and down with excitement. Old Bear, I found old Bear, he shouted. So you have, said old Bear. Have you been lonely? Asked Little Bear. Quite lonely, said old Bear, but I've been asleep a lot of the time. Well, said Little Bear kindly, would you like to come back to the playroom with us now? That would be lovely, replied old Bear, but how will we get down? Don't worry about that, said Little Bear. Bramwell has thought of everything. He's given us these handkerchiefs to use as parachutes. Good old Bramwell, said the old teddy. I'm glad he didn't forget me. Old Bear stood up and shook the dust out of his fur, and Little Bear helped him into his parachute. They went over to the hole in the ceiling. Ready, shouted Rabbit. Steady, shouted Duck. Go, shouted Bramwell Brown. The 2 bears leapt bravely from the hole in the ceiling. Their handkerchief parachutes opened out and they floated gently down, landing safely in the blanket. Welcome home, old Bear, said Bramwell Brown, patting his friend on the back. The others patted him too, just to make him feel at home. It's nice to have you back, they said. It's nice to be back, said old Bear. That night, when all the animals were tucked up in bed, Bramwell thought about the day's adventures and looked at the others. Rabbit was dreaming exciting dreams about bouncing as high as an aeroplane. Duck was dreaming that he could really fly and was rescuing bears from all sorts of high places. Little Bear was dreaming of all the interesting things he had seen in the attic. And Old Bear was dreaming about the good times he would now have. He was back with his friends. I knew it was going to be a special day, said Bramwell Brown to himself. Did you enjoy that story? Rosie and I did. How lovely. I love this story. It's such a classic. And the author is Jane Hissey. And here she is. Now, Jane Hissey is a very, very famous writer, and she has written many books and stories about Old Bear. And if you check the newsletter, there's another link where you can actually see her reading one of her wonderful stories about the bears. So go and have a little look if you're interested. Okay, now I thought just to end this little session, we'd have a little think about the characters in the story of Old Bear. Here's the attic. How do you think Old Bear was feeling when he was up there? What do you think? There's Old Bear. How was he feeling, do you think? I think you're right. I think he probably felt a little bit sad. What might he say? What might he say if he saw you up there while he was in the attic? What do you think he might have said? Do you think he might have said, I feel lonely, I feel sad, I wish I could come back to the playroom? I wonder. It's always good when we've read a story to think about the characters and to think about what's happened and to form an opinion. An opinion is just what we think, our thoughts, and it's good to share our thoughts. So share with a grown-up now. What do you think Old Bear would have said up there? Now here we've got the characters in the story. Can you remember their names, who they are? Who's this one? Yes, this one's Old Bear. Can you name the others? We've got Little Bear. I like Little Bear, he's very cute. Well, I like all of them. We've got Rabbit, who likes to bounce on the bed. And then we've got Bramwell Brown. I think Bramwell Brown is wise, which means I think he has lots of very good ideas and knowledge. He seems to be the leader. I think he helps lots of these friends, doesn't he? Although I think they all help each other. And then we have Duck. Now, in the story, they all have different ideas. Can you remember some of their ideas? What did Little Bear think of? What was his idea, how they could rescue Old Bear from the attic? He said we could build a tower with bricks. Now you guys are really good at building towers, aren't you? I've seen many of you building fabulous towers, so you're a bit like Little Bear. Would you have thought of that one, to get right up to the attic? Yeah, would you have thought of that? What did Duck think of? What did he think of? What was his idea? He thought they could all climb on top of each other. What do you think about that idea? Was it a good idea? They all crashed down, didn't they? I hope they didn't hurt themselves too much. But they're all trying to think of ways to save their friend from the attic, aren't they? What about Rabbit? What did Rabbit like to do? Rabbit thought about jumping on the bed, didn't he? I asked in the story, didn't I? Do you ever jump on your bed? I quite like jumping on my bed sometimes, but we really shouldn't because it might break. So you've got to be very careful. So don't ever bounce on your bed if your grown-ups say, stop. We don't want to break our beds, do we? But I can understand why the rabbit thought it was a good idea, because it is kind of fun. Jumping is fun. Maybe we should jump not on the bed, but on the ground or on a trampoline or jump off of something safely. That's probably a better way of jumping, isn't it? And finally, Little Bear. What did Little Bear think of? Yeah, Little Bear thought about climbing up the plant. Didn't work out though, did it? No, but they all worked really well together. And that's what's really important here. Friends working together, helping each other. Do you help your friends? Can you think of a way that you're a bit like these friends? What do you do to help your friends? The characters work as a team in this story. And here's a list of ways that they do that. They listened to each other. They cared about each other. That's really important, isn't it? They spoke kindly. So they didn't ever say, that was a rubbish idea. That's silly. They thought about each other's ideas with kindness, didn't they? And they tried it. So listening is a really good thing to do. Caring for each other and speaking kindly, using kind words always. They helped each other. And they praised each other. Now, what does that mean? If you praise somebody, what does that mean? Praising means saying something they've done really well. So when your grown-ups say to you, good job, well done, they're giving you praise. They're saying you've done something really good. And that's what they did for each other. That's important. Do you praise your friends? Do you tell them if they've done a good job? They encourage each other That's a bit like praise. You're encouraging somebody to do something. You're saying, yeah, go for it, be brave, try. And that's it for now, boys and girls. That's the end of our Old Bear session. But I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you do go and look at Jane Hissey's video as well, so you can learn another story about Old Bear.